We got Keith Law joining us right now. I
gotta say things, but come on.
We got Keith Law joining us
20
now.
games under.
River Islands guest line.
Senior games under.
Senior baseball writer for The Athletic. Keith, good morning. Joe Spadoni alongside Joe Shasky. And we're just breaking down some of the answers and quotes from one Buster Posey addressing the media yesterday. And, I mean, my guy, if it's probably unfair for me to say this, he just feels kind of checked out on this year. He looked like a deer in headlights at times. And that's, not uncommon given the last couple of interviews he's had and talks to the media. But how do you feel the Giants did overall as a team with some of the prospects that they landed? And good morning.
Good morning. I think Zach Manassian and company did a great job. I loved what they ended up doing. They did better than I expected in several of those trades. I'd say probably the Heliot Ramos return and the Robbie Ray return particularly stood out to me and getting Marcelo Mayer, who I'm sure we'll talk about in some depth. Yeah, just kind of all of them. Actually, I'm looking at the whole list here, and I love what they did. I think it's exactly what they needed to do, right? There's an acceptance here of we're not going anywhere this year. These players are not going to be part of the next good Giants team. So let's move them out and get the best returns that we can. And in Mayer, they got a former top prospect whose value was really low right now, and I think they have a lot of work to do with him. But I love bringing him into the system. And they got a mixture of guys who are maybe lower ceiling, but fairly close to some guys who are various types of lottery tickets, like Mayer, where there's just a lot of fixing that has to be done, or a guy like Yoniel Hernandez, who's very far away, but has a really high ceiling.
All right. So I know you know a lot of these guys, and we'll get into kind of the particulars, because the Boston one is very intriguing to me. I agree with you. Given what they gave up, they did do a good job, but I guess the question is, why stop at Heliot Ramos under team control for multiple years? And I'm not in love with Heliot. I think he's solid. He has clear flaws, and he's redundant to what they have in terms of skill set at the plate. But why not entertain Logan Webb? Why not entertain buying down a huge chunk on one of the other guys? I guess big picture, how do you view their philosophy as an organization? Because we were just playing sound about Buster. There's not out of the realm of possibility. We could contend next year. It's like, that is not even reality.
I don't entirely agree with you, because with so many wild cards, a 500 team is a playoff contender. Could they be a 500 team next year? Yeah, absolutely. I think they could. I don't know if this is the manager to get them there, but I do think they could be a 500 team next year. That's all you have to do. We see all kinds. Look at the White Sox. Okay, the White Sox obviously had been rebuilding for a bit, but all of a sudden they are legitimate playoff contenders. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I'm pretty sure I predicted them to lose 90 games again this year. So I don't think that's wrong. If Buster was saying, we're going to win 90 games, we're going to contend for the NL West, that would be kind of crazy. I'm actually fine with them keeping Logan Webb, because I do think if they have any chance of being even fringe contenders next year, you would need to have him or replace him. He provides a ton of value just through all the innings that he soaks up. As for paying down the other guys, we didn't see a lot of those guys move, right? We didn't see a lot of big contracts move at the deadline. It was a lot of rental players, a lot of younger players with years of control. Jose Soriano getting a top 50 prospect back from the Blue Jays in Arjun Nimala. That's what gets traded now. Big contracts, when they do get traded, it's more often in the off season, and it's going to be, here's my big contract for your big contract, or here's my big contract and you take a lot of the money and I accept nothing in return. And I don't know that either of those things, the Giants probably shouldn't be doing that right now. They should be trying to move. If they're not moving a big contract for prospects, I'm not sure that there's a point in moving them right now.
Fair counterpoint. I have a hard time seeing that the offseason is going to be more fruitful, given that we don't even know what we're going to have this offseason. And obviously the uncertainty with the CBA and everything going on there. So the kid they got from Boston, what happened in Boston? Because I remember when they had the three guys on that Red Sox doc that they were hyping up on Netflix, and it feels like all these guys, for whatever reason, have failed to live up to the promise, and now he's on the move for Eric Miller, who I didn't think was very good with the Giants.
Yeah, Miller has great stuff. He has never thrown a lot of strikes. He's never thrown a lot of strikes. I saw him a lot when he was in the Philly system. And every time I'd go and look at the radar guns, holy cow, it's a left-hander. He's throwing upper 90s. He can certainly spin a slider. And then it's walk a guy, hit a guy, poor command, middle of the zone. He's had a lot of injury issues. I noted in my write-up, he was Rule 5 eligible at one point and nobody took him. You can find guys like that. Now, he's better than he was 3 or 4 years ago, obviously, but I don't see giving up a player of Mayer's ability or youth to get a reliever. Just a reliever like Miller, who is not one of the very small number of elite relievers in baseball where you say he is a difference maker. Mayer, Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, those are the 3 guys you talked about. None of them have panned out so far. Anthony is by far the best of the 3. He was the best prospect. He has had the best major league tenure so far. Campbell, they signed him to a big contract, changed his swing. He hasn't recovered. Mayer, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite. They've needed to help him with his swing, particularly his stride and how his front leg works for 2 years now, and they haven't done it. And I don't know the answer. Have they not tried? Has Mayer resisted? They're already leaking a lot of stuff about he didn't work hard. He was a partier. Red Sox love to do this with guys who depart the organization. That stuff comes from ownership, and that's gone back probably 10 years or more at this point. So I'm not really paying a lot of attention to that. I also hope that Mayer getting traded, getting new voices, getting with a new player development staff, I hope he just arrives open and willing to make some changes. He's got to get on the field more. He's been constantly hurt basically since he was drafted. And he is going to have to loosen up that front leg. He kind of lands really stiffly on the front foot. The knee gets locked and he cannot hit anything down. And it is extremely stark in his numbers. If pitchers throw anything at the bottom of the zone or below, he's toast. And that is going to have to change for him to have any kind of success in the big leagues. If I see that, everybody else does too. It's not like I have better data, I have worse data. So I'm sure the Giants saw that. I'm sure they're fully aware of it. I'm sure they're going to try to work with him on it.
Do you think that he could make an appearance this year? Or, I mean, because second base is kind of wide open right now. The Casey injury has, obviously left a big hole that they're trying guys out at third base. Where does he, if he can get healthy, where do you think he lands this year?
I guess depends a little bit on when he comes back. Do you try to start him in AAA just to kind of ease him out? It'd be rehab, right? It would just be rehab work. Give him some runway in AAA before he has to make his debut in a new city. I'd kind of be in favor of that, especially because you can send him to AAA and try to work with him on some things. You're probably not making massive changes mid-season, but just try to loosen things up a little bit. Say, hey, can you try this? Try to change your stride length. Try to loosen up. See if little things help in AAA, give him 2 weeks there, and then call him up. I would call him up. I would let him debut in the majors this year. He can definitely play second base. He has major league experience. It's not like you're asking him to come to the majors for the first time. I would consider doing that. And then even if he struggles this year, it gives the major league coaching staff time with him. It gives you some more data against major league pitching to be able to go with him sort of at your exit interview for the offseason, say, here are the things we want you to work on in the winter. Here are the things we'll work on with you, so that he comes into spring training next year ready to take the second base job.
Talking to Keith Law here on the River Islands Guest Line, senior MLB writer for The Athletic. And I saw your little Threads post yesterday, Keith, and it really made me laugh. WTF are the Red Sox doing by trading Marcelo Mayer for a middling left-handed reliever? Question mark. And no, it's great stuff, and I appreciate you breaking all these things down for Giants fans because, like most prospects, it's, you might never even see these guys. And the fact that we have seen Marcelo Mayer for a little bit here makes him very, very intriguing. Who should Giants fans be most intrigued by from the pitching prospects that they received? Because I'm looking at it right now, and Shasky has this bleak reality. It's true. You traded Robbie Ray yesterday. You got Logan Webb. You got Landon Roop. And then it's, okay, Carson Wisenhunt. Hauser's coming back. It's pretty barren is what we're getting at here, Keith. So Giants fans need to have hope somewhere in the pitching pool.
And they got some arms. I think Henry Lalane, the giant lefty they got from the Yankees, is their best chance for a real starting pitcher, a guy who's a number 4 or better. He's got premium stuff. It's 3 pitches now, and he's had a lot of success so far. I think he needs probably time and reps more than anything else. His 2025 was ruined by, I believe, a shoulder injury. He didn't have surgery or anything, but he was a mess when he came back. He was Rule 5 eligible this winter. Nobody took him. Came back this year. Velocity is back. Results are good. It's fastball, slider, splitter. It's going to take time for him to get that delivery, to get that body more under control so that it's real strikes, real command. So I'm basically saying that I don't think he's going to be ready, say, next year to step in. But I think you've got a chance for a pitcher with some real upside there. He was in the Ramos trade. I love that one. In the Arias trade, they got two guys who I think are ultimately relievers. Marty Gare is just a reliever, but it's 100 with big ride, huge extension out front. He's going to be ready pretty quickly. Ramon Marquez was kind of the big riser in the Philly system. It's fastball changeup. He really can't spin the ball at all. I think that's going to be the thing that keeps him from being a starter. However, he's had a lot of success as a starter in A-ball, and I leave him in that role as long as possible. Every once in a while, you get that Michael Wacha type who it's fastball changeup, throws a ton of strikes, and the breaking ball's never better than a 45 pitch, below average pitch. And Wacha's still going, more than 10 years after he was drafted. So I would leave Marquez in that role, even though sort of ultimately I think he ends up in the bullpen.
So I'm looking at the overall health of their organization, farm organization. And I'm thinking like, all right, they just had this draft. They selected a ton of young pitching. They just had obviously the deadline. They've replenished. You got Bryce kind of showcasing himself. When you look at the overall health of their farm, where does it stack up league wide? And I have a follow-up, but like, I guess it's a loaded question because we don't know, but I'm just wondering, like every year, it's like the Dodgers are perennially one of the top teams when it comes to the farm system, and they've earned that benefit of the doubt. And I just wonder, like, does like Bryce's impact the rest of this year? Does that buy them a little benefit of the doubt when it comes to these rankings, or is that just irrelevant completely?
Bryce is out of this. Let's joke about Eldridge. He's out of the farm system. So he does not matter. When I rank farm system, it's based on who is currently in the farm. It has nothing to do with the guys who graduated. It is okay. It's team agnostic.
Gotcha.
Because anybody, as you've seen, right? James Tibbs traded twice last year. So I always rank the prospects, evaluate the prospects, and rank the prospects as neutrally as I possibly can.
Gotcha.
So I do not give Josué and Luis Hernandez and Gavin Killen. They don't get extra points for being in the Giants system because I think the Giants developed pretty well now. I think they're doing, particularly since Manassian took over as GM and kind of gave Kyle Haynes more freedom to do, honestly, bigger things, more significant changes with players. I think the Giants are a good development organization. I think this is clearly a top 10 farm system in baseball. I'm not giving them extra points for that, but they also don't need them because they're in good shape. They've had a couple of good drafts. They've had a couple good trades. They've crushed it on international, particularly with those two shortstops I just mentioned. So I really like the direction here. I hope it starts impacting the Major League Club a little sooner because obviously you're all waiting for it. You want to see some of this come up, and you want to see them stop doing things like the Adames contract and the Chapman contract, and even the Devers trade. I mean, Devers isn't awful, but it hasn't been the world changer that you're looking for. They're going to have to build the homegrown core first, then go out and get the big veterans to supplement to make this team a winner again. Well,
I appreciate you bringing that up. I hear a lot of Giants fans that are complaining about the Dodgers system. They get the benefit of the doubt, and it's like, well, they kind of earned it. And it's like the Brewers, they've earned it.
Their guys are good.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, true.
Exactly.
Yes, I got so much of this the other day. I got so much of this, like, you media overhyped the Dodgers. Who do you think I talked to? I talked to all the execs in baseball. I never once hear, the Dodgers get so much extra credit. I actually hear that about other teams. They complain the Yankees overhype their prospects. Nobody says that about the Dodgers guys. You know why they don't? Because the Dodgers prospects are actually that good. The Dodgers are the best development organization. The guys they just traded, Hope and Ryan, they got in trades. River Ryan was still an infielder when they traded for him. They got Tibbs after Boston totally screwed him up, and they fixed him. They got Mike Sirota in a trade from the Reds. And they don't take credit for fixing him. They just say he got healthy. That's the other thing, is the Dodgers are very quick to not take credit on these guys. So nobody's overhyping them. Other teams look at the Dodgers and say, yeah, we wish we had their money. But also they're just really good at what they do. Draft, international, and player development, and pro scouting, especially pro scouting. That's the DNA Friedman brought over from Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay is still one of the best pro scouting orgs in baseball. It's how they got Junior Caminero in a trade for nothing. And the Dodgers do that, and also they have all the money in the world.
All right, so you brought up the big three contracts, and you're saying, hey, they got to have a homegrown core. Well, we're going to have a lockout. The season's going to end late October, early November, probably early November. Is there any path? I don't even know when the league year starts. I think it's early December. Is there any way they could move off of any of these deals before a proposed lockout? Or is this something that's going to have to happen, or any movement with the Giants is going to have to happen after the lockout is resolved?
That's my assumption, is the latter. I don't know. I don't even know when technically Major League Baseball, assuming that that's what they're going to do, that they would lock out the players immediately. I think the CBA expires November 30th. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. I think it will be one of those sort of cursory lockouts at first. I'm not totally convinced we're going to lose games to it, but they just always lock the players out in the offseason, at least. And if that means they cancel the winter meetings, that's completely fine with me. I'm so done with those. I just never need to do that again. There's no meetings. Nothing happens there most of the time. Everybody does it on text. But I'm guessing that the player movement you're talking about all happens after we resume whatever it is we resume. We resume the offseason or we resume play. Whenever they do get back to it with a new CBA, that's when all this stuff's going to happen.
Keith, what is your take on the whole kind of fallout? Obviously, you know, if you were on social media after the Scooble trade happened, it's like, this is what's wrong with baseball. Dodgers are bad for ball. This is guaranteeing a lockout next year because of the Scooble trade, all of that. What is your just whole sense on this entire thing and a potential hard cap, a salary cap, what have you?
I'm totally opposed to the salary cap. It's just the owners trying to pad their profits. It's not going to improve parity in baseball. I mean, God, you look at the standings right now. There's plenty. Yes, the Dodgers are kind of running away with things, but they're also, it's not the money. It's not just the money. The money helps. They're also the best run organization in baseball. They're the Brewers with money. And look at the Brewers. The Brewers are also doing extremely well in the standings. You can win in baseball with a really well-run organization. And also, most of these quote-unquote small market owners have plenty of money to spend on players if they choose to do so. They take their revenue-sharing payouts and they pocket them. That is the number one thing I think that needs to change in a new CBA. Whereas Major League Baseball, the owners are just pushing for a salary cap because they want to increase their profits. Good on the union for saying, nope, we're still not doing it. We've been resisting this for 30 plus years. I hope they continue to do so. I do think that's going to be ultimately the sticking point. And the question is, do the owners realize they have so much money coming in from TV contracts that they're willing to back down on this salary cap demand? Or are the very small number of labor hawks like Monfort in Colorado, Crane in Houston, Reinsdorf still, good grief, in Chicago, did they manage to get the owners to hold firm until they get the union to back down? And I've talked probably more to the union folks than to the league at this point, and I don't think the union's backing down anytime soon.
Keith, just big picture. We've watched the draft. I've seen the deadline. Boy, there are just a zillion power arms and a zillion middle infielders, and I know they all get converted. What is the position that is scouted the poorest right now in baseball, or is maybe devalued league-wide, that you think is a market inefficiency?
Well, I think we all have a hard time with catchers, right? Because catching I think a lot of it has been disrupted by the emphasis on framing, which is going to decline in value, at least, if not go away, especially if they expand any kind of ABS. It's just more challenges, or eventually go to a full ABS system. That's going to mitigate most of the advantages of framing. But evaluating catching is just really hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to scout because you'd have to, honestly, for me, I have to sit in a different position than I sit to do anything else to evaluate a hitter or a pitcher. To really watch a catcher catch, I have to be in a completely different spot. I also have a hard time because I see catchers in the minors. I see catchers in college. I see catchers in high school occasionally. And the problem you have now is every pitcher in low A is trying to throw 98 with a sweeper, and catchers, they're not trying to throw strikes. So these catchers are moving constantly to try to block something. And it's like, wait, is he a bad catcher, or is it just the pitcher couldn't hit the broadside of a barn? I mean, I'm slightly exaggerating, but that is a problem. To actually see a catcher who can just catch quietly. Like I saw Caden Bodine, who is in the Rays system, and he is a pretty good defensive catcher. He's more than a pretty good defensive catcher. He's a very good defensive catcher. And it was just really quiet. And so that's what it looks like. That's what I'm looking for. I see very, very little of that at this point. And I never know how to parse out, is this bad pitching or is it mediocre catching that needs to get a lot better? And, came up the Von Lackey. We talked about him in the draft. He ended up going one pick ahead of the Giants, but He is a good catcher. He's really athletic. I also saw a lot of movement back there that I hope doesn't continue to happen, but maybe it's because the Georgia Tech guys were all trying to throw 98 with a sweeper.